And now I would not take much of everyone's time, and I would like to call upon Yashasri on the microphone and webcam to share about the characteristics of an autonomous team, which is an interesting topic because we have been speaking about self-organizing team for a long time, and we talk about teams to have independence. How we can establish such a team. I think Yashasri's session will guide us through. Thank you, Yashasri, and over to you.
Thank you, Nupur. Thank you for the kind introduction. Um, thank you, Agile Network India, for giving this opportunity. I'm really excited to share some of my experience and my journey around characteristics of an autonomous team with all of you who have joined in. Thank you for joining in. Good afternoon to all. So, a very quick introduction about myself. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to let go of these controls.
Yashasri, you can click on the orange arrow on the control panel. It will push it to the right hand side. Just before your
Orange.
microphone icon. Just above your microphone icon, there should be an arrow or
Okay, I
minimize.
got it. Got it. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Okay, so a very quick introduction about myself. So I'm working as an agile coach and a transformation consultant for Tata Consultancy Services. Been in the IT industry for around 23 years now. Um, I'm a complete family person, art and music lover. I love to walk, listen to music. I'm also a blogger, a reader, a speaker, a learner, and I'm an author of a book called Agile Mindset Magic: Stories from the Trenches. The book contains of a lot of stories from my experience of agile coaching, and even this particular presentation or this particular session is also bringing some of the experiences that I have had in my coaching journey, something that I have learned from my teams, from my coaches, and the experiments that we have performed during the coaching journey, right? So so let us get into the session, and my plan is to put it into four sections: why autonomy, what is autonomy, characteristics of autonomous teams, and some of the experiences that I would like to share from whatever I have learned about autonomy from the teams, right? So before we begin to take deep dive into what an autonomous team is really, I think it will make sense to understand why autonomy or team autonomy especially matters in any teams or any organization's agile journey, right? Let's take a couple of minutes and let's try to understand what that means, right? So first and the most relevant thought leadership insights into this topic, and something that we really refer to, is the work from Daniel Pink from his most celebrated book called Drive, which is surprising truth about what motivates us or what drives us, right? Daniel Pink considers autonomy to be one of the three key pillars of intrinsic motivation. The three pillars are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And through his book, Daniel really beautifully explains all the experiments that led him to this particular inference that if a team has autonomy, mastery, and purpose, they are intrinsically motivated to do the work that they are supposed to do, right? Then they don't really need a lot of external motivators like um, any carrots or any stick, that kind of motivation. So Daniel Pink defines autonomy to be self drive or something which is self directed, right? The teams are self managing, they are able to, they're free to do the work that they are supposed to do on their own, right? Without anybody telling them or without anybody commanding or controlling on what they are going to do. So it is a very, very relevant area for us as agile coaches, agile team members, or leaders to ensure that our teams have autonomy, right? Let us also look at what Scrum Guide, which is closer home to us, right, for all of our agile enthusiasts. Scrum Guide states that a Scrum team is self-managing. What does it mean? It means that they internally decide who does what, when, and how. So, this is a quote from the Scrum Guide, and I personally feel that this is this particular quote is really bringing the concept of autonomy into our work very, very close to home. Uh, the Scrum Guide also says that unless the team is self managing, it is going to be very difficult that they inspect and adapt themselves. The inspection and the adaptation part, which is looking at how things are going and changing the way of working to make it better, is completely dependent on the self management or the self organizing team that it is, the Scrum team. So it is very critical for a team to become a self managing team, for it to proceed further on the agile journey and to ensure that it is taking the right decisions in terms of inspection and adaptation. And this is where a lot of help or lot of enablement or empowerment to the team is going to come from the agile coaches and the leaders and the scrum masters that are there in the team, right? They are going to help the team in this journey to become autonomous. So there are a lot of interesting patterns in the scrumbook.org, and you can actually look at all of these patterns from the scrum.org, very easily available on the internet. It's a free book. But the autonomous teams related pattern, or the pattern for the autonomous teams, was very, very interesting, because it says that the coach or the scrum master, so you see the scrum master here, right? The scrum master is actually shielding the team to ensure that the team's autonomy doesn't get compromised. Now, what does that mean? What does the scrum book defines autonomy as? So the scrum book defines team's autonomy, or autonomy in the team's context, in two things, right? One is establishing the team's own culture. How will they work with each other? How will they interact with each other? What kind of collaboration and what kind of rules or norms will they have in terms of each other? It also includes how the team carries out their own work as a self-managed team. So these two things are very, very relevant from a team's autonomy perspective, and they are important because the team is the closest to the problem that they are solving, right? And they see how things are happening very, very closely, day in and day out they're working on that problem, so they are probably the best people to look at how they can solve the problem, how can they be better in the way they are solving that particular problem, and so on. Of course, that doesn't mean that they are doing something completely on their own and they are oblivious to what is happening around them, correct? So that is where I think we have this concept of feedback and learning from the external environment or the external world, which is of course including the stakeholders, including the organizations and things like that, right? And whenever we are working on bringing in autonomy for a particular team, often we hear these questions from the managers, or the people who are outside of the team, the stakeholders within an organization, that if you are letting the team to do whatever they want to do, that's how typically people perceive autonomy as, then how do we ensure that whatever they do is contributing to the outcomes of the organization? Or how do we have the control of what is the team doing, whether they are on track, how are they progressing, and things like that? So that is where I personally feel we should get into understanding and establishing a common understanding of what is autonomy in the context of agile team, right? It is very, very relevant. What is it that we mean? Is it letting the team do whatever they want to do, whatever way they want to do, just absolutely free, like nobody can question them? Or is it something probably else? So going into what is autonomy part, which is let us start with what Daniel Pink talks about, right? We referred to the autonomy mastery purpose pillars of Daniel Pink earlier. Daniel Pink talks about autonomy as a 4T framework. As you can see, task, time, team, and techniques. What this basically means is, Daniel Pink says that the team should be able to take their own decisions to decide the tasks that they work on. They should be able to take a decision on the time they work for, right? They should be able to take a decision on their own, the team that they work with, and also they should be able to decide which techniques they will use while they are working. So this is very interesting, and I'm sure we can relate some of these very clearly with the way we work in Scrum, right? Like in Scrum, though the product owner is providing us the priorities, and though the product owner is providing us with the user stories, it is the team who is breaking down those user stories into tasks, and the team is free to pick up, or the team members are free to pick up whatever tasks they want to work on, right? um, there is this concept of team norms in which the team members are also coming together as a team and deciding the time that they work for, deciding the time they want to meet every day, and so on, right? And bringing in the flexibility as they believe will empower them. Of course, the team, they may not be able to choose every time, but at least, the capabilities or the skills, those are the ones that the team members can definitely raise and accordingly choose the team. And of course, the techniques that they use while working, definitely left to the team. The team evolves those. Every retrospective, the team looks at, where they are, what are the different things that they want to try out, and they want to be better at the way they are working. So this is how Daniel Pink looks at it. And coming to the fears of the managers or the other stakeholders that we spoke about earlier, we found aligned autonomy concept really explains that whole, or it kind of alleviates the fears that the managers will probably have. So this is beautifully explained by Henrik Nieberg in the engineering culture at Spotify video, right? And this is this concept. I mean, I really like this representation because it makes it extremely clear about how the autonomy and the alignment. And here, what we mean by alignment is alignment to everybody aligning to the same thing, and also alignment to the purpose or alignment to the organization's objectives. So as you can see on this in this picture, when there is a low autonomy, when there is a low alignment, the team members, like the ones that you see as smiley, the small smileys, they probably don't really know what they are supposed to do, right? And they are simply directionless. They don't know what to do, and so on. When the alignment is high and the autonomy is low, probably it is a command and control kind of a situation, or a very manager directed kind of a situation where everybody is telling the team members what to do. So they need to cross a river, and the manager is also telling them that you have to build a bridge. Now when the autonomy is high, let's say we provide more autonomy to the team, but the alignment is low, then there is absolutely no idea whether everybody is working towards the outcome that the organization wants to achieve or not. So the managers are probably thinking, hope somebody is working on this problem of crossing the river. And if you have a high autonomy and high alignment, then probably there is a objective very well defined that we need to cross the river, and the team is allowed to decide how, right? They may build a bridge, or they may introduce boats to cross the river, whatever, whatever way is the best way, right? So this concept basically tries to balance the autonomy that is offered to the teams to perform the work, and ensure that that work is aligned to the objectives of the organization. So this is a very relevant concept, I believe, to understand what is autonomy in the context of Scrum. I also want to bring in the work done by Daniel North to this discussion, because I found this piece to be very valuable in the journey that I took to help the teams become autonomous, right? So last year in Agile India 2020, Daniel North gave a talk which was known as, which was titled as Agility at Scale, the Meeting of Mindsets. And he brought out 6 dimensions of autonomy in his talk. I mean, I just loved the talk, right? And I was actually doing some work around autonomy for the teams during that period. And this was like a godsend for me to really understand the concept of teams autonomy, how to measure it, how to help the team, how to make it more concrete than keeping it at an abstract level that we have seen so far. So Daniel North defines 6 dimensions for autonomy: skills and capabilities, resources, authority, purpose, constraints, and accountability. He had taken an example of using a car, or driving a car in Mumbai traffic to reach his conference destination when he was in Mumbai. But I want to take another example and just try to relate to what all of these 6 examples or 6 dimensions mean for autonomy, right? So let us take an example of a football team which is playing for a club, and it is playing in a competition, right? So the team, to be autonomous team, to be really high performing team, first of all they need to be an autonomous team, right? They cannot be completely commanded and controlled over to win the match, right? So what is it that they would probably need? They will definitely need the skills, right? Only if the football players are highly skilled, only then they would probably be able to uh, enter this particular team, right? They also need to have the capability. So what are the various capabilities? Probably the capabilities of ensuring that they have a great attack team, they have a great defense team, and they know how to pass the ball well, and things like that. In terms of resources, they will definitely need to have access to the resources, like for example the ground itself, or the sports gear, the sportswear, and so on. They need to have authority, right? They should have been selected and announced as team members of that particular team, and they need the authority. If at all they are traveling, they need the visa and things like that. All of those things will be needed for them to participate in the competition. They need a purpose, and they have a purpose. The purpose is to win the match, to do the to do their best to win the match for their club. They will have constraints, right? There are rules of the game that they need to follow. The football game, for example, all the rules of the game. They will also have some rules defined by the club which they have to abide by. So these are all the constraints under which the team will work together, right? And they also have an accountability. They have an accountability to do a fair play, right? To do a fair play to win for their club. So these all of these things, when they really have in the fuller sense, will lead to their autonomy, and it will also help them to become an autonomous team. Does it mean that they don't have alignment? Does it mean that they just work the way they want? No. They definitely have their constraints. They definitely have a purpose towards which everybody is working. They have guidance from their coaches, right? They have guidance from their coaches, their managers, to come together and to work together. They have guidance by their captain, the strategy definition, etc. But still everybody takes decisions on their own on the ground, whom to pass the ball to, or how to, in a fraction of second, how to make a goal. Correct. Now, looking at very quickly the liquidity strategy, this is a strategy that Daniel North proposed to manage or to improve the level of autonomy in each of any of these directions, right? Dimensions, I'm sorry. So what is this liquidity strategy? So liquidity term is coming from the financial context, right? We say an asset is whether an asset is liquid or not, which is basically mean like how easily are we able to convert it into cash if needed. So in this particular case, looking at every dimension from the lens of liquidity, if we believe as a team that a particular dimension is easy to obtain, then we should probably go and get some, right? If it is harder to obtain, right, which means that probably it will take years to obtain the same by the team, then probably we should borrow it's from somewhere else. And if the team feels it is something which is impossible to obtain, then probably they should just accept it, and they should just go ahead and mark it as a constraint that they can probably not overcome. So I spent a lot of time on this slide because my like the characteristics that I wanted to bring out for the autonomous team is based on this particular framework, and I hope I have made justice to what Daniel North had proposed as dimensions of autonomy, right? So let us move ahead and let us look at the characteristics of an autonomous team. So we actually wanted to experiment, and we wanted to make the concept of team autonomy a little bit clearer, a little bit more concrete than a pure abstract concept that we have seen in several of the books and papers. So we brought together all the insights that we just saw from a lot of thought leaders, and we designed an experiment that we ran with several teams in my coaching community, and I wanted to bring that to you to hopefully make it a little more clearer as to what is it that we are talking about as characteristics of an autonomous team. Yeah. So this is proposing this to be in a workshop format, and proposing this workshop based on the grow coaching model, which is goal, reality, options, and will. Very simple model. And I thought I'll just introduce this. So the way we want to do this is, we want to set the goal, which is for the team, which is, be better in their journey of becoming autonomous teams, right? To be better in terms of their team autonomy. That is the goal for which we are doing whatever we are doing now. Then the second part is reality. So everybody should know where they are today, right? And for this, we have a toolkit which I'm going to take to you in a minute. So the coach will facilitate the workshop using the toolkit to establish where the team is in terms of the dimensions, that all the various dimensions that we just saw, right? That is the reality check. Then there are options. So now let's say the team goes through the whole exercise of establishing where they are. They will try to see wherever they are really low, how can they improve. They will use the liquidity strategy to figure out, right, is there anything that can be done to ensure that they can be better in that terms and they can be more autonomous than what they are, right? And also then finally, once they discuss the options, there will be a will. So the team will probably agree what are the things that they want to put into their improvement backlog, and they will also agree upon the cadence in which they want to review whether they are making any progress or not. And mind me, it's not a binary, right? Whether the team is autonomous or not autonomous, it is not a true or false kind of a question, right? It is a journey that we take. It's similar to what we say in terms of, whether the team is an agile team or not, right? The team, it is not a true or false, it is always a journey. So even I personally feel that, becoming autonomous is a journey, and every team is somewhere on that journey, and with the right will, the right support, the right enablement, they can be better, they can move forward slowly or in an accelerated fashion based on the support from the organization, etc., into that journey. Yeah. Just wanted to state that fact before we get into the characteristics. Yeah. Now, the way we have structured this is, to understand what it means to be autonomous for an agile team is, we have the four dimensions: skills and capabilities, resources, authority, and purpose, and several questions related to these dimensions um, to be asked to the team. Also, for each of these questions, the team will think about what is the alignment they need to have, right? Because we are talking about aligned autonomy, we are not talking about something which is a completely free country to do whatever, people want to do. There are constraints, there is alignment needed. There will also be constraints because the teams will normally be in the context of an organization. The teams will also have an accountability, right? So all of these things will have to be discussed by the team, facilitated by the coach. And then there are certain techniques that we have suggested to improve wherever they are today to be better the next time. So all of this is discussed for each of the questions, and then the team will rate themselves. Okay. So let me quickly take you through, some of these questions. The intention is not to discuss all of these questions right now. This has to be done with your teams in a workshop setup to figure out, where they are, how can they be more autonomous than what they are today, right? They may be completely zero because, they are simply doing whatever the project manager is telling them to do, and there are so many other aspects of being autonomous. So let us quickly look at a couple of questions from the skills and capabilities dimension. Does the team have all the skills and all the capabilities within so that the team can independently deliver working software? So this is a very, very relevant question. Anybody in the team can understand. So what does this mean? It means that, let's say you need a product owner or a product manager, a scrum master, you need developers, you need testers, you need all of these skills to be able to deliver working software in a sprint. Then do you have it within the team, right? Do you have the capabilities? What are the various capabilities? Let's say you have developers, but what are the development capabilities we are looking at? It may be back end, front end, it may be SAP, it may be integration skills, right? Do we have all of those capabilities a part of the team? That is a question that we are asking to the team. right? Of course there will be alignment needed, like for example there will be capabilities, like they will use the capabilities that are defined by the organization. They will have constraints, right? Like for example, the team may want to learn new things. They will see that in upcoming days there is a need for integrating with a new system that is going to come up, right? As an upstream or a downstream system. Is the organization offering them learning options, right? Or do they have to do something on their own? So these could be constraints that may be possible in the given situation. The constraints could also be availability of people to be staffed, right? Or organization may have separate groups for support, separate groups for infrastructure, that may put constraints, correct? So they may need capability, like I'll take an example. So there was a team that was doing a proof of concept in terms of improving the performance for an Oracle ERP product. Now that meant that they have to rapidly put things to a different QA environment, right? Where the performance can even be tested. Dev environment was like really only for development, and you cannot really test performance there. So doing rapid changes and rapidly test whether the performance is improved or not. Now, of course, this team wouldn't have a way to put things to production or put things to QA because of the access limitations. So they don't have that capability within the team, and it won't happen because it is a shared service system. So now this puts a constraint. So they will have to work around that if they want to be more autonomous. And there are multiple options, of course. And of course, the team will be accountable to identify the skills and the capabilities that are needed. They have to be defining the roadmap, that they have to raise that point saying, we will need this particular skill, or we will need this particular capability, or it is holding us back from being autonomous. It is making us dependent on some other teams, and we are not able to do things ourselves. We are not able to figure out things ourselves. We have to depend on somebody else. So depending upon all of these various aspects, and also looking at whatever techniques to improve, we can probably the team can probably come up with a self rating. So they will have to give their own rating as to where they are. So we used 1 to 5, but of course you can use whatever you believe is the right rating. Similarly, for skills and capabilities, we need to, is the team capable of identifying a blocker, and are they able to work on it, or do they depend on a project manager kind of a person, or somebody else, some senior person, right? If they are always dependent on a senior person to figure out how um, whether what the blocker is, then it might really not be a good autonomous team, right? So they may have to do better than what they are doing now. So in that case, what is it that the team will needs to learn? What is it that the coaches need to do to ensure that the team is able to speak up, they are able to bring up the impediments to forefront, and so on. So this was about skills and capabilities. And then about resources, does the team have all the required resources to achieve the business outcomes, right? Do they have access to the right environments? Do they have required automation to reduce dependencies on other teams, and so on, right? These are some examples, but there could be several examples in the team's context, and the team will bring it up saying, we need this, but we don't have it, right? There could be constraints like the operating model. Budget could be a constraint, right, for getting the right resources that the team needs. But the team definitely has impediment accountability to raise the impediments at appropriate times, right? These are some examples of questions for resources. The team also needs the right authority in terms of becoming autonomous. Some examples of having the right authority are, is the team allowed to experiment with techniques that they believe will help to achieve the business outcomes, right? Like, can they experiment with Kanban if it is already not there? Can they experiment with user interviews? Can they experiment with different tools? Is it allowed? Of course, this has to be in alignment with whatever the organization allows. And of course, it has to be in line with the organization values and principles and so on. But is the team autonomous enough to do this? Does it have the flexibility in terms of working times to balance their work and life, right? What is the time spent? Like, can the team themselves come together and define how much time they want to spend in office versus how much time they want to spend at home? Can they themselves add stories? Do they have authority to add stories? Now this would typically be technical stories, right? Can they also add technical stories from their retrospective items or whatever they believe will help the team? Do they have that authority to add stories to the backlog, or do they always have to go by what the product owner tells them to do? So these are some examples from the auto authority concept. And then the next thing is basically about purpose. So purpose is of course also one of the pillars of intrinsic motivation, as we saw in Daniel Pink's drive book. But purpose is very very critical, and a lot of times when we talk about aligned autonomy, purpose is what is most important to create that particular alignment. So some of the examples of where the team is in terms of having a clear purpose and also having an understanding what the purpose is, right? So some of the examples are like, is the team defining their own OKRs? Now here I'm talking about OKRs because the teams that I was coaching used OKRs, but it could be anything, right? Any framework that the team uses to define their end goal, their outcomes in short term, long term, right? Whatever it is the team defining their own OKRs, or are they completely relying on somebody else to define everything for them and they simply do it, right? It means that if the latter is the case, then it means they are far from being an autonomous team and they have to work towards becoming an autonomous teams. Of course, even if they define their own OKRs, they will need to align that with what the business wants, what the organization wants, etc. And they will probably have some constraints, right? They cannot go ahead and define 10 objectives, right? Something that the organization may have defined. Or also with respect to purpose, is the team asking why proactively? Is the team being a thought partner in decision making when it comes to prioritization? Or they simply relying on the product owner to prioritize what comes next? Or are they also talking about it in their team meetings to discuss on, we believe this has to be done now because so and so reasons, right? So that is also something that will contribute to the autonomy that the team has. They are accountable for making progress, and they will probably they're also accountable for making their progress transparent to the organization and so on. So a lot of techniques that can help them improve, including the OKRs, setting up the roadmap, also the discussions, backlog refinement, sprint planning. All of these techniques will help them to ensure that they are giving their inputs in terms of the purpose, right? So these were the four dimensions I thought we will bring together to talk in more concrete sense about what autonomous teams probably should consider themselves to improve the team autonomy. And this was really helpful, and we tried this within our coaching community, within some of the teams, and it evolved over time, of course, right? And it's not something that is concrete and something that is published out there for everybody's consumption, but it is something that we experimented with and we really found it very very useful, right? So I wanted to share a couple of examples and experiences from what we tried out. So I just picked up two examples which were a little different, and these are the teams that are at different levels in their agile maturity journey. One team that was relatively at an early stage, and the other team that is at a relatively um, intermediate stage, I would say. Not really very advanced, but intermediate stage, right? So um, so the first team actually spent considerable time to draw the common understanding of autonomy, and I felt that that was very very relevant because people had to understand what autonomy means, right? It is not something that means you go and you do whatever you want to do, but there is a structured approach to understanding autonomy, and it was very relevant for the team one to establish that first. We couldn't get into the dimensions workshop with them for at least a couple of sessions, right? We had to focus on establishing the common understanding of autonomy, whereas team 2 was a little ahead in the journey, so the common understanding establishment was quicker, and we could actually get into the workshop to look at the various dimensions and characteristics and look at where the team is with respect to their autonomy. So this is example from team 1, wherein we got into a session with them to let them to let them express what they believe is autonomy, what they believe is consists of various things within autonomy. Why do they feel it is important, and also how does an autonomous team look like, right? So they added a lot of inputs from their side, and there was a discussion that we had, and we also brought in all the insights from various thought leaders on this piece of autonomy, and that actually helped them to firm up their understanding of what autonomy really means, and then we could move on to the next workshop. Whereas for team 2, we actually went through the grow model that I had spoken about earlier and went through each of these dimensions. This is just a sample for your consumption, but the team rated themselves on various aspects like skills and capabilities, resources, purpose, authority. And just an example for skills and capabilities, the team believed that they have the right skills and they are also spending efforts in upskilling themselves. For example, they had seen that they would need skills for integration with a cloud SaaS platform and in coming days, and they actually invested time into upskilling themselves in SnapLogic, and that helped them. So such kind of things really believe made them believe that they are doing better in terms of skills and capabilities within the team themselves. They are pretty autonomous in that case, like around 70% is what came out from the team's self rating. In terms of resources, because this team was basically an um, Oracle ERP team working in a finance domain. They had an issue in terms of accessing the QA and production because of the data there. So they always had this constraint from the organization with respect to compliance. So they worked on certain things, right? Like for example, using Jenkins to do some automation, etc. But they believe still, they are somewhere halfway through to be autonomous in terms of resources. Similarly, for purpose, they felt that they're really good in terms of the purpose, like they are using OKRs on a quarterly basis. It is aligned with the business stakeholders, it is aligned with the organization's priorities, and it is really helping them to define what is the purpose that they are all working together towards, and helping them to be more self-organized, more self-managed, and more autonomous. So we went on to do these experiments further, and some coaches developed, some teams really wanted to know what is their autonomy quotient. This so the whatever we saw just now was not really designed to come up with a number. It was more of a radar chart kind of an output, wherein team could decide their lowest uh, factor, and then they could improve upon that. However, some teams went further and they kind of tried to derive a number that will define their autonomy quotient. But it definitely helped us. It helped us to improve the scores on autonomy in the surveys, the team's happiness surveys, and it also in general improve the team health, right? And it also led to better handling of impediments in the team's autonomy journey, because now there was a structured approach where we identified what are the dimensions and characteristics of being autonomous in the team's context, and we could figure out this is where we are lacking, and these are the impediments, and this is what we should probably do to address that. And we also shared this with the community, and I'm really happy that I could share it with all of you as well. And I would be very eager to hear from you as to what are your thoughts about it. And we can definitely, and I'll be very happy to share the toolkit that we used for this particular experiment, if you want to try it out with your teams and see and help them to be better in their journey of autonomy. You just have to write to me or connect with me on LinkedIn. You can send a message. I will be very happy to share the toolkit that we have used, and you can experiment that, and you can also uh, evolve it further to put it in your context and see what it means to your teams, and how can you as a coach or a leader or a manager help your teams to be um, better and to be more autonomous. So um, so this is what I had, from the characteristics of autonomous teams, and I think we are on time. So we have 10 minutes, 9, 10 minutes left for questions. Uh, Nupur, shall I look at the chat
Thank
and
you.
take the questions myself?
Thank you, Yashasri. Prashant here.
Hi,
Thanks for
Prashant.
an insightful session. Yeah, in fact, I think participants may have had a very good takeaways from your session. Uh, Let me read out the questions for you. We have one
Sure.
question from Amar. He asks, what shall be role of manager in an autonomous team working remotely? So this is very much related to remote working. What's the role of a manager to make the team autonomous? That
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah. So this is a very very highly debated, highly discussed topic. I think role of managers in agile teams. I would say that role of a manager in an agile team is the same as role of a manager to take the team onto their autonomous journey as well, right? We look at managers to be like today's managers of agile teams to be more servant leaders, right? So to their job probably is, or their responsibility probably is to help the teams to be better, to be more self-organized, so that they can do more in their stuff rather than micromanaging. um, if you really believe that your team is ready to take this journey of autonomous teams, and if you are the manager or whoever is the manager, they can definitely try and understand the various aspects of autonomy, and they can try and help the team to understand what is it that it takes to be a self-managed, self-organizing, or an autonomous team, and help them to resolve whatever impediments the team sees in their journey. So if the team feels that more automation will probably be uh, will help us to be more autonomous rather than being dependent on some other team for delivering our outcomes, then as a manager, help them. And I would say that yes, last year I think this being remote was a big question, but now I think people have probably got used to it. We have almost everybody has the tools established, right? So talking to the team every time, being there in the retrospectives, probably with the remote teams, probably might help. But I don't see it to be very different. Of course, I mean, being in one room physically together and being in a remote setting is different. But yes, I think many of us have already figured it out how to still keep the connection open and how still to communicate. um,
yeah,
I hope that answers.
yeah, yeah. But as you were telling, just the thing was popping up in my mind. So being remote and trying to wanting them to be autonomous, are we becoming more reliable on the tools? Uh, how is that actually? Doesn't it is like little bit of anti-agile when we are getting depending on tools or something like that?
No, no, I meant like I referred to the tools to enable collaboration, Prashant. So
Okay.
yes, we are remote, and we are not able to come together in one single room, which would have been more to establish that rapport and establish the personal connect, right? Which
Yeah.
it would have been much easier for a manager if we were all together in the office, if the team was
Mm-hmm.
all together, talking and having informal conversations, etc. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, if we are not able to do that, then the collaboration tools are probably going to help us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whatever tools you use, Teams or Zoom or Slack or those kind of tools can probably help you to still establish that connection, is what I wanted to.
Okay.
I
Thank
hope
you.
that, yeah.
Yeah. So there's another question from Karthik. He asks, how does this autonomous teams work in complex environment like banking?
Yeah, so I don't know why it will be any different, even if it is a complex environment like banking, if we are using the concept of aligned autonomy, right? So we are not talking about the team being free to do whatever they want to do, right? That can probably happen if it is just one team, right? One team in a startup, like just 5 6 people working together to come up with a product. But as we have an organization with multiple teams, also a lot of constraints coming in, from the organization side, I think aligned autonomy concept shines there. And if you look at those 6 dimensions that I was talking about, probably we will have more constraints when it comes to the banking environment, right? All the compliance, regulations, all of those constraints will have to be built in. So it also makes the managers or the leaders or the coaches job to ensure that when there are so many constraints available, how do we still enable the team's journey in terms of autonomy? But yes, if you really want a high performing team, irrespective of the industry, at least in the knowledge worker space, right? We are not talking about a factory setup. We are talking about a knowledge work when we are talking about intrinsic motivation and this autonomy journey. I think, yes, there will be more constraints, there will be more alignment needed because there will be complex products that have to be rolled out, but it is possible. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're talking about the complex environment, in fact, Prashant Gulwad is pointing out that our monthly events is conducted in autonomous way in every city, and we're expecting that autonomy
Yeah, that's
across
a
the
great
country.
example.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for putting that out, because I agree. And right, as different chapters we are pretty autonomous, and there are constraints, right? The constraints are that we have to, or there is an alignment, I would say, not constraint that every
we are
week,
trying to
every
achieve that
month.
alignment.
Yes, the alignment
True.
is every month. The event has to be there. The event has to be 50 minutes. That is the constraint. But yeah, I agree. Yeah,
And the main this thing is we are very much diverse. Right.
yes.
So with the looking at the time constraint, we'll take one more question. What Amar is putting, autonomous team and members. What is the role of Scrum Master and Agile Coach?
Yeah. So, so the role of the Scrum or the Agile coaches is to shield the team's autonomy and to empower them or enable them to take that journey to be more autonomous. That is how I see it, and that is why I was interested in this particular topic myself. Right, being a coach, I think if we really want to lead the team towards being a high performing team, we have to make them self managed, self organized, and that is where this whole concept of autonomy comes in. So I would say two things. One is empowering them on the journey, enabling them on the journey, right? Helping
Absolutely.
them to proceed on the journey. And second is shielding it. So if
Yeah.
there is a pressure coming from stakeholders or the organizations and all that, coaches will have to be coaching the stakeholders or the organization also to shield the team.
Yeah.
So two
I
things
think
from my
coaching plays a very important role in enabling the team to be autonomous.
yeah
Thank you very much, Yashasri, for your
sure.
insightful session.